And here we are again for the third and final part of the story of the herd boy. Now, another year went by. This time the king sent messages around all his kingdom. If anybody can find my daughter, the princess, who's been stolen away by something horrible, they will get a palace and money and maybe something else. And the herd boy watched the people come and go to the castle and ride off to the west, to the east, to the north, the south, looking for the princess with the hair of colour of fire of the sun in the morning. And another year went by and nobody had found the princess. 2 years have gone by now. And the herd boy thought, I'm going to have a talk with the king. So the herd boy went to see the king and said, Sire, may I ask something? And the king was sat there like this. He said, ask what you want, boy. Ah, but forgive me. I'm too sad to smile or say anything. I miss my daughter so much. And the herd boy said, it's about your daughter, sire. I would like to ask if I could go and look for her. Oh, please, said the king, don't mess with me. What do you know about princesses and finding? And the herd boy interrupted him and said, Sire, if you don't mind, I spend many days in the year looking for lost cows, sheep who've wandered away, goats who've got stuck in the mountains. If any one of your animals goes missing, sire, I go and find them. Finding lost things is a big part of my job. I know how to do that. And the king looked at him and said, you've got a point, boy. Forgive me. I never thought of that. Go now, if you can. Somebody else will look after the animals. And if you find my daughter, and the herd boy said, yes, I know, palace, money, and something else. We'll talk about that if I come back, if I'm successful. You're very kind, young herd boy, said the king. Good luck. I hope you do find her. And so do I, sire, said the herd boy. And he, his stick, and the dog left that very day. They went out of the castle into the forest, and as night fell, he looked around for that magical star, and he began to follow it again, and it took him north for a long, long time. And then eventually, one beautiful summer's morning, the dog and the herd boy came out of the big forest onto the shores of a lake. A great big glassy lake. And right in the middle of the lake there was a rock. And on the rock there was a tall tower. And in the top of the tall tower there was one window. And as the herd boy and his dog were looking across the lake, at the rock, at the tower, at the window opened, and it looked as if fire had come out of the window. And the herd boy thought, what's that? And he knew that it was the hair of the princess tumbling out of the window. And he knew that he'd found her. But he also knew he couldn't get there. How could he get from here across the lake to the tower? He couldn't swim. He hadn't got a boat. He didn't know what. And there was a small voice just by his feet. And the voice said, hi there, herd boy. You need a wish, don't you? I'm the girl you gave the glass slipper back to. What would you like? He said, oh, great to see you again, but I've got to get from here to the rock to try and save the princess from whatever's taken her. She said, easy as. Watch me. And in that second she turned into a huge eagle with wide wide spread wings, and she said, "Get on my back and hold onto my neck, herd boy. We're going flying." So the boy jumped onto the back of the eagle, and they took off, and they swooped low over the waters of the lake until they arrived at the rock in the middle of the water. And the eagle went down, and the boy jumped off and thanked her, and the eagle flew away over the mountains. But he looked up. The tower was smooth and tall. How could he get up there? What can I... And then he heard another voice from over here. It was the little boy, the one who lost the cap bell. And he said, "You need a wish, don't you?" He said, yeah, I've got to get up here." He said, "No problem. Watch me." And the little boy turned into a kestrel. You have seen those birds that hover by the side of the road as you're driving along. He said, "Get on quick, I can't do this for too long, it takes too much energy." So the boy jumped on the kestrel and it flew up until it was level with the window, and it was hovering. He said, "Come on, jump in the window." And the herd boy leapt in the window and rolled onto the floor, and the kestrel flew away. So in the room, there's the herd boy on the floor. There's the princess standing there, combing a long golden colour of the sun hair. And she says, "Good morning. At last someone has come to rescue me." And the herd boy says, yes, it's me. I'm sorry it took 2 years to get you." She said, "Don't worry, I'm happy that you've come." But he said, "What happened to you? Why are you here? What's the story?" She said, "We don't have much time. A giant stole me away 2 years ago so he can get money from my father. He goes out into the forest each day, but he comes back about now for his dinner. And if you listen, you might hear him." And they stuck their heads out of the window in the tower, and far off they could hear zoom, zoom, zoom. And the princess said, "That is the sound of the giant beginning to wade through the water to come back to the tower for his dinner. We don't have much time." Oh, the herd boy said, "Oh, right, okay, we've got to get back down the tower. What can we use? Oh, curtains. Yeah, the carpet and the sheets off their bed. Come on, let's tie them all together, make a big rope." And they did make a big rope, the two of them, tied everything with big, strong knots, and then they tied it to the end of the bed, and they pulled the bed against the window so it wouldn't come out. And then they got on the end of the rope, and they started to work their way down until they were stood at the bottom of the tower, on the rock, looking over the lake. And the princess said, "Well, what now? You've got a boat or anything like that? Anything clever?" He said, "Oh, no, I haven't got a boat." And just at that moment, the herd boy heard the voice of the little old man, who looked up and said, "You're the boy who gave me my whistle back. And I'm going to give you a wish, because like I said, I knew you'd need one. What is it I can do for you?" So the herd boy said, "Me and this young lady, we've got to get from here to the other side of the lake before the giant comes. Can you hear it? Zoom, 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 zoom." The giant was getting closer. So the old man said, "Consider it done." Zoom, and turned himself into a boat with 2 oars. And the boy and the princess jumped in the boat. They grabbed an oar each, and they began to row and row and row. And as they rowed, they caught sight of the giant, who was walking through the water with his long greasy hair and his big long greasy beard and his boots all wet, and his face was like thunder. He was angry because he could see that the princess was escaping, but he was getting closer and closer, and his big hands, his horrible hands, were reaching out, ready to grab the ship and the princess, and he was going to rip the herd boy apart. You could just hear him say it. And the boat spoke. The voice of the old man said, "Right then, we're near the shore. I'm going to change one more time. You two jump out and run and get through the water as quick as you can. Ready? Boom, let's go." And the boat suddenly disappeared, and the princess and the herd boy splashed into the water. But behind them, a huge water snake with a great big mouth with teeth and a long poisonous tongue suddenly appeared out of the water and turned round and wrapped itself around the legs of the giant and wrapped itself around all the way over the head of the giant and trapped his arms and then dragged him down under the water. And there was a great bubbling and steaming and smoking. But the dragon was never, did I say dragon? The giant even was never seen again, nor a dragon for that matter. And the princess and the herd boy and the dog made their way home through the forest, down many a track, until days and days and days later they came to the castle once more. And the king and all the people were so happy to see the princess with the hair the colour of gold like sunshine in the morning. And the king said, "Well, young man, you've done exactly as you promised you would. You found my daughter, and with your magic, the giant is no more. Not even a dragon is any more. So I owe you a palace. There's one down there. I owe you lots of money. We've got boxes of it here. And one more thing." And the herd boy said, "Sir, can I name the one more thing?" "Of course," said the king. He said, "I would like to marry your daughter." And the princess said at that second, "Yes, I'm sure you would like to marry me, but I'm going to be the one doing the asking when I feel like it. I've seen you as a herd boy, I've seen you as a rescuer, I just want to see you now as a fine fellow. Let's give it a few months, and then I'll let you know." And the herd boy was overjoyed, and the king laughed. He said, "These princesses these days, you just can't beat them." And maybe the herd boy is still trying to be a fine fellow, and maybe one day the princess will marry him. But we don't know that. We have got other things to do. That is the story of the herd boy.